Hello and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for stopping by. Today we're learning how to sketch quadratic graphs. Now a quadratic graph is a graph that is in the form y equals ax plus bx plus c. Alright, now to sketch a quadratic graph you should be expecting to see what we call a parabola. Now, what's a parabola? A parabola is just like a U shape or an N shape, something that looks like this. All right, so on the screen here we have a parabola, and so you're expecting this, but there are some other things that are quite important to be able to get this sketch properly. Okay, the very first thing you need to consider is to make sure you determine the shape of the curve. Yes, it is a parabola, but sometimes it's smiling or it could be frowning. When is it smiling? It's smiling when we have a equals a positive number. So if a turns out to be positive, then the curve will be smiling, as in the case of this diagram on the screen here. Now when a is negative, then the curve is frowning, like you're expecting an N shape. All right, now when you've sorted the shape of the curve, then you move on to finding the y-intercept. What's an intercept? An intercept is where a curve cuts the axis. So we could have an x-intercept or a y-intercept. But the first one we want to consider here is the y-intercept. What's our y-intercept? Your y-intercept is just that number right there, where the curve cuts the y-axis right there, that particular spot. And it's usually written as a pair of coordinates, 0, something. That something is usually c, c being the constant term in the quadratic equation. Up next, you need to find something else. What is that? You need to find the turning point of the curve. How do you find the turning points? It's easy. You just complete the square on the quadratic. Now, some people might struggle with completing the square. We're going to take a couple of examples after this slide, then you can see how to complete the square appropriately. After you have found the turning point, I've mentioned this earlier, we now talk about the x-intercepts. Now, the x-intercepts of a quadratic function are actually the solutions to the quadratic equation. So what do you need to do to find the x-intercept? Attempts to solve the quadratic. You're going to have two values, and those two values will be your x-intercepts. So having gone through the basics, like let's run through all four things. Determine the shape. Is it smiling or frowning? When you've sorted that, then you talk about the y-intercept. What's your y-intercept? That is your c, the constant term in your quadratic. And then you also complete the square on the quadratic. This helps you to find the turning point of that particular function. And finally, if need be, you solve the quadratic to find your x-intercept. So let's dive right into it while taking a couple of examples. Have you subscribed yet? Oh, please do if you haven't. Thanks for watching once again, and please like the video so that the algorithm can recommend it to other people that need this kind of information. Thank you. So let's take our first example. Okay. Now, in this particular question, we're told that the diagram has been drawn, and then we're shown that the diagram shows a sketch of a curve y equals x squared plus 3x minus 4. Find the coordinates of the points A, B, and C. If you take a look at the diagram, the point A here is the x-intercept. Point B is also the x-intercept. Now remember I mentioned that to find the x-intercept, all you need to do is to solve the quadratic. So we're going to attempt to solve this quadratic by setting it to 0. So this quadratic says x squared plus 3x minus 4. I set it to 0. Okay? Now, to factorize this, you could solve your quadratic any method that is most convenient for you. For this particular one, I'm going to factorize. Okay? So this is going to become x squared plus 4x minus x minus 4. equal to 0. To factorize, remember you're going to break down the middle term to two numbers that when you add them up, it will give you the middle term, and when you multiply them, it will give you the product of the coefficient of x squared and the constant term, which is what I've done here. So pairing them up in twos, I'm going to have x into bracket x plus 4 and minus 1 into bracket x plus 4 equal to 0. So the two of them are going to turn out to be x minus 1 and x plus 4 equal to 0. Remember, when you multiply two things and they are 0, it definitely means one of them is 0. Okay, so it's either x minus 1 equal to 0, which implies our x is equal to 1, or x plus 4 equal to 0, which implies our x equals minus 4. So x could be 1 or minus 4. Taking a good look at our diagram, this will be minus 4 because it's the one to the left. So our a here is going to be, since it's on the x-axis, the value of y is 0 and the value of x there is minus 4. And here, the other value of x is 1. So the coordinates of point A will be minus 4, 0. The coordinates of point B will be 1, 0. And point C here is our y-intercept. Now, the y-intercept here is the constant term in the quadratic. Okay, so it means that our C is going to be what? 0 minus 4, because the constant term in this particular quadratic is minus 4. I hope you understand this one. Let's move on into the next question. Okay, so this is the solution. The previous slide had the question and I have the solution, the mark scheme for the solution here. Notice that you get 3 marks if you get A and B correct, and you can see you could either factorize or you could use the quadratic formula to solve. Either way, any one of them will be fine. So let's go to the next question. Now, this question says write x squared plus 10x plus 14 in the form x plus a all square plus b. Whenever you're told to rewrite a quadratic in this form, you're being asked to complete the square on the quadratic. Whenever you're being asked to write a quadratic in this form, you're being asked to complete the square. So let's try to complete the square of this quadratic. Now, how do you complete the square? You open the bracket, you write your x, half of your term b. So b here is 10. So half of that is plus 5. I close up my bracket and I put my square out there. Whatever I have put in here, I am going to subtract its square. So since I have 5 here, minus of 5 squared. And I don't forget my constant term. Please don't forget it. So plus 14. I'm almost done with completing the square here. Okay, so this is going to now be x plus 5 all square minus, what is 5 squared? 25. Minus 25 plus 14. Now, this is x plus 5 square minus 25 plus 14 will be minus 11. So I've been able to write my quadratic in the required form. I'm going to write my answer here. Please remember to always leave your answer in the space provided, not just in your workings. You need to transfer it to the space provided. Now we get to sketch our curve. Remember, the question here is saying on the axis, sketch the graph of y equals x squared plus 10x plus 14, indicating the coordinates of the turning point. Now, they have not asked us to indicate all the points, the most important thing they want to see here are the coordinates of the turning point. When you have completed the square on the quadratic, you're literally looking at the coordinates of your turning point. Yes, what do I mean? You see, after completing the square, you'll notice there's a number beside the x. The negative of this is your x component of your turning point. And this constant term out here is your y component. So what do I mean? For this particular graph, turning point will be negative of this, that is minus 5, and then this as it is minus 11. So I've got my turning point. Now, the question didn't just ask me to find the turning point. It has asked me to sketch the graph indicating the coordinates of the turning point. So I'm going to come and indicate my coordinates of my turning point. I'm going to assume, say, my minus 5 is somewhere here. And then minus 11 should be, say, somewhere here. So my curve is going to pass through this point. All right. Remember, this curve has a coordinate of x squared being 1. Yes, and it's positive. It's x squared plus 10x plus 14. When the coordinate is positive, we expect a what? What do we expect again? Do you remember? Yes, we expect a smile. So this is supposed to be a U. Now, the only information required here is the turning point, but we could make it look neater and nicer by indicating that we know that our y-intercept is 14. Okay, so I can just locate my y-intercept here as 14, and then I sketch my curve. So I know this curve is going to be a U going down this way, passing through here as its lowest point or its turning point, and cutting the y-axis right there. Is it compulsory to show where it's cutting the y-axis in this question? No, I just want to use it to explain how to sketch curves. I hope you understand. So I'm going to draw that right away, a U, passing through that as its lowest point, and oops, okay, yeah, something like that. Okay, so that's our curve. Does it need to be perfect? Nah, it's just a sketch, so you won't be crucified for not having a perfect one. I just want it to look neater. So I'm going to do it again. Yeah, so I'm just taking that as my 14. Okay, I hope you understand. Now let's move on to the next question. Before we move on, I'm going to show you the mark scheme for this question too, so you understand that we've done the right thing. Now, here's the mark scheme for that particular question. The most important thing is a sketch of a U-shaped parabola with a minimum indicated at minus 5, minus 11. All right? On to the next question. Now, here we've been asked to write x squared minus 8x plus 10 in the form x minus p all square minus q. Remember what I said the last time. When you're asked to do this, you're asked to complete the square on the quadratic. So let's get right into that. Have you subscribed? I'm waiting for you to do that. Thank you. And please like the video, share with your friends too. Okay, so let's do this now. Remember what we said we would do? We're going to half this and put it in a bracket with x. So we open a bracket, we write our x, we half this. This is minus 8, so it becomes minus 4. We close the bracket and square it. Now, whatever we have in the bracket, we're going to subtract its square from this term. So we're going to have minus 4 square plus 10. That's it. Let me go over that again. You halve this number and then you subtract its square outside of the brackets. Okay, so this becomes x minus 4 all square minus 4 square is 16. So minus 16 plus 10. So simplifying this, it becomes x minus 4 square minus 6. So we have completed the square. We have written the quadratic in the form that was required. So this is x minus 4 all square minus 6. All right. So now to the B part of the question, we've been asked to sketch the graph of same function, x squared minus 8x plus 10. On the sketch, label the coordinates of the turning point and the y-intercept. Now, this question is specifically asking you for your y-intercept. Remember what I said in the last question. You're already looking at the coordinates of your turning point after you've completed the square. They are, the turning point is going to be the negative of this value beside the x. So this is minus 4. The negative of minus 4 is 4. And the y coordinate is just going to be this term hanging out here. So the y coordinate is minus 6. That's the turning point. What about the y-intercept? Y-intercept is the c in the quadratic, the constant term in the quadratic. So for this particular quadratic, the constant term here is 10. So the y-intercept is going to be 0, 10. These are the two critical points you need to show in this particular sketch. If you don't show both of them, you might not get your full 3 marks. All right, so we need to show 0, 10. Let's say that should be somewhere here. Okay, and the turning point is at 4. So 4 minus 6. So let's just say minus 6 is somewhere. No, that's not. That doesn't look proportional. So let's say minus 6 is somewhere here. And then 4 will be somewhere here. So minus 6, 4 minus 6 will be a point here. Okay, so I have located my y-intercept and located my turning point. So all I need to do now is to draw my curve. And looking at this particular quadratic, you can see that the coordinate of x squared is 1. It's positive, so it should be smiling. And even the way the points have been plotted, you can see it seems it's going down and then it goes up from there. Okay, so sketch. No drama. Done. Okay, then pass through this point. Let me do that again. Okay, this looks better. So we've sketched the curve. Will you be penalized for it not looking pretty? No, nobody's going to penalize you for that. All right, so let's move on to the slide that shows us the answers. All right, as you can see, the critical thing is for it to pass through 0, 10 and also 4 minus 6. That's the correct sketch. All right. Now, I'm going to leave you to try this question. Okay, have a go at this. It's very similar to the first question we did. You could quickly rewind the video, go back on the video and check that particular question. Have you done that? Okay, if you've done that correctly, you're going to have something that looks like this. These are the answers to that slide. And here you have the mark scheme for that particular question. Okay, so we have come to the end of this video. So let's do a quick recap on all we have learned so far. To sketch a quadratic graph, know that it's going to be a parabola. But the shape of the parabola is dependent on the coefficient of x squared. If the coefficient of x squared is positive, you're going to have a u, that's something like a smile. And if the coefficient of x squared is negative, then you're going to have n, something that looks like a frown. After determining the shape of the curve, the next thing you need to look out for is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where the curve cuts the y-axis. And this value is very evident on your quadratic function. It is the constant term, the term that doesn't have x or x squared attached to it. That is where the graph is going to cut the y-axis. When you have determined that, up next you need to complete the square on the quadratic. This helps you to find the turning point of the graph easily. Now some questions will go ahead and ask you to find the x-intercepts, that is where the curve cuts the x-axis. That's not a big deal. All you need to do is to solve the quadratic and find the two values of x that you will get after solving the quadratic. So that's all you need to do to sketch a quadratic graph. All right. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. And I'm sure you have subscribed, right? You have. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.